Who or what, basically player, manager, or club, has impressed you most in the Premier League so far? And who has impressed you least? On you go.
Well, I've waxed lyrical about Chelsea already, so I'm going to focus on a player here. And to be honest, I think it's worth mentioning again, because we talk about many superstars all over the European game, and I really think not enough. Bukayo Saka, to me, has been tremendous. 7 assists in the Premier League. That's actually a lead in all 5 European leagues out of anybody. We already saw what he did in the last game, 2 assists and a goal. But to me, what's even more impressive about the fact that he has 7 assists, and there's only 1 game where he hasn't contributed to a goal this season so far for Arsenal. But the reason why I want to bring up Bukayo Saka, because at 23, he has continued to elevate his leadership characteristics, specifically at a time when somebody like Martin Odegaard is not playing. And honestly, we talk about Jude Bellingham, Lamine Yamal, Erling Haaland. Bukayo Saka belongs in that conversation. I really believe so. And I think that he is showing such a tremendous, aura, not just in what he's producing, 7 assists and goal contributions, et cetera, but also as a leader. And at that age, with this team, to try and keep going, to me, is remarkable. So yes, it's still early, but Bukayo Saka deserves my mention. In terms of least impressed, you mentioned that there, MD. I'm not going to talk about Manchester United at all. I think we've beat that drum way too many times. So I'm going to go with Man City's defending, like I said, and I'll be very quick. Yes, the Rodri thing is a major issue, but against Fulham, like Adama Traore, had it not been for Ederson, they really should have scored a few more. And it's not just about Rodri's hole. I think there's a lot of things going on at the back that are showing the vulnerabilities of Manchester City. Brentford, of course, scored early against them as well. I mean, they do that against anybody, but against Manchester City, it's showing a little bit of weakness at the back. So I haven't been impressed with that side of Manchester City. And if they want to win the Premier League once again, yes, obviously they have a lot to do with it, and Rodri's absence is a major thing. But defensively, I'm a little bit unimpressed so far.
I like the pick. I like the pick because they've conceded as many goals as Manchester United have this season.
Yep.
Manchester City. And by the way, they haven't kept a clean sheet in the Premier League at home since Arsenal in March. Yep. Now, they've won a fair few of the games, obviously didn't beat Arsenal, but scored late on. But that's another 2 goals conceded. So I like those shouts. Okay, Stevie Nicol, who's impressed you most, club, manager, or player? And who are you like, ooh, I expected more from that?
I was going to go with Saka. I agree with Luis. I think you could go for Cole Palmer. I mean, he scored 4 goals in 1 half in the Premier League. You're doing a few things right. But closer to home, I'd have to say Gravenberch. I mean, you talk about coming from absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, when I saw the team sheet against Ipswich Town in the opening game of the season, I'm like, why is Gravenberch playing? Because what he showed us last year, questioned why he was there, in all honesty. But my goodness, what he's produced now. You talk about putting somebody in the perfect position for them. And he has been, I mean, he's been sensational. The amount of times that he breaks up the play because of his starting position, because of his decision making, when to step in and win the ball and when to sit back and wait for it to come to him. It's really surprised me. It's shocked me, to be quite honest, because I was looking at Gravenberch as somebody that Slot maybe would look to move on. But in a very short space of time, he has completely changed my opinion, and I'm sure plenty of other opinions. As far as the other side, I'm going to have to go with you both and Man City, and in particular, Ruben Diaz. I mean, this is a guy that won the Sports Writers Player of the Year award not that long ago, and quite frankly, on the counter-attack, he has been sadly wanting, and on not just against Fulham, but in any of the games he's played, he just hasn't been able to counter or defend against, particularly pace. But just in general, his all-round play for me has been pretty average. So a surprise from Gravenberch, but also a surprise that Diaz has been as poor as he has.
Just before we get to Ryan to wrap things up, I'm going to go Brian and Mbeumo for Brentford. No Ivan Toney and Johan Wissa out injured as well. He's got 6 goals, just one of them a penalty. That's one clear of Cole Palmer. and Luis Diaz, signed for just under 6 million back in 2019 from Troyes in France. And he kind of started off as a left-footed right winger, and he's become more of a striker because Tony's
and they've
gone.
Been bangers, MD. The goals have been bangers.
They've been good, and they score early, and he's like, give me the pressure, and fantastic. He's been really good. Manchester United is the target of my kind of expected more. And it's the recruitment staff. They got that totally wrong. There's that. There's also the team in general, but we've been over that, and we're not going over old ground. But Bruno Fernandes, he got 10 goals last season, and he hasn't scored this season for a side that are desperately looking for goal scorers. When Højlund was out and Zirkzee came in, they haven't scored at home at Old Trafford since Joshua Zirkzee scored just a few minutes from the end of the first home game of the season against Fulham. So the only way is up for them, but Mbeumo has been excellent for Brentford. To wrap up today's ESPN FC Live, Ryan O'Hanlon with his failures and flops, but more importantly, his players or managers or teams who have excelled expectations so far. The floor is yours.
Yeah, you guys have covered most of the high-profile teams, so I'm going to go a little more hipstery, if you will.
Hipstery.
We're taking Fulham. Yes, that's exactly where we're going. I don't know. Like, I feel like Joao Paulinho has already been erased from history, but he left Fulham this summer, and
Fulham. That is one of the okay.
A lot of people thought he was the best, one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. He leaves Fulham. Fulham are way better this season than they were last season, and I expected Fulham to be borderline relegation level. Their team was very old last year. If you think Paulinho had an effect on their performance, you'd expect them to be worse. They honestly could have and perhaps should have beaten Manchester City at the Etihad this past weekend. Among their team, Adama Traore, I guess it's not surprising that he looks like the greatest soccer player of all time in brief stretches, and then
then he gets in front of goal.
Yes, and it leads to nothing happening. But I think Fulham, it would not shock me if they finished top half of the table this year, and I wasn't expecting that. Other side, I also feel like Newcastle have just slid under the radar of for some reason we don't have expectations for them anymore, even though they're owned by the richest owners in all of professional sports. Their point total is decent this year, but if you've watched them play, they stink. Wow. They used to have a fantastic defense. Their defense is awful now. I don't really know what the plan is for that team with the players that they have acquired. They're Manchester United level performances from them so far this season.
They're seventh, though. They're seventh in the team.
Well, the points are not the be all end all for my analysis.
You're better being lucky than good sometimes.
Yeah. Do I expect the luck to continue? No. Newcastle, I thought they would bounce back after struggling with the Champions League last year and not having it this season, but they've basically been as bad, if not worse, from the kind of underlying performance perspective.
Yeah, Everton Newcastle was horrific to watch. It was almost as bad as United Villa.
I'm surprised it's taken you this long till basically the stoppage time at the end of added time at the end of 90 minutes to get your first Villa reference in. And
I said it was a bad game. I didn't praise them.
I'm even more surprised that John Duran hasn't had a mention.
Oh, John Duran. Another time, MD. Another time.